back of the 10th round. I mean, back of the...
Mr. Booze.
Wait, hold on. Chug a claw for the Discord? If we get 5 members to join, I'll chug a claw for the Discord. Are you kidding me? The NFL draft was absolutely insane. This is my favorite day every single year, and I typically can't wait to make this video. It always comes out the moment the NFL draft ends or some point late at night when the NFL draft ends because I just love the draft. Ever since I was a little kid, I would obsess over these players, obsess over how good they would be. And it's just so fun following each and every single one of these prospects to the NFL. Now, before we get to the content, we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. In addition to that, we're giving away $500 in total, $250 each to 2 of my followers on Twitter at Mikerophone NFL. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, I want to open up this video by giving you the same disclaimer I gave you last year. There is no freaking way that I could accurately predict which one of these NFL draft picks are going to be a bust or which one of these players are going to be studs. All I could do is speculate based off of the team that drafted them, based off of the culture that the team has cultivated, based off of how much the team needed them, and based off of what the situation is for each player. In addition to that, a lot of winners and losers on this list aren't necessarily draft picks. Some are going to be draft picks and some are going to be players that have already been playing in the NFL. How do some of these draft picks affect existing players in the NFL? Well, that's a huge reason we're making this video. So before you burn me at the stake, just keep that in mind, because when Travis Frederick was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, people said that was a reach, when in reality, it was one of the best linemen taken in the first round of the 2013 NFL draft. When AJ Terrell was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, that was also deemed to be a reach. When Patrick Mahomes was traded up for by the Kansas City Chiefs, everyone was shocked. And for the most part, this is the reason why the games are played, but this is why we still make a spectacle out of the NFL draft, because it's freaking fun. So before we get to it, go into the comment section down below and just off the top of your head, tell me your biggest winners and losers from this year's NFL draft, and let's get to it. So my first winner, without a doubt, has to be Travonne Walker. I mean, this is a guy that I originally thought may have been selected outside of the top 15 at least a month ago, but he made a meteoric rise all the way to the #1 overall pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, some people are going to go out and say the Jacksonville Jaguars are losers in this instance. I don't want to go ahead and say that Travonne Walker is a bad pick already, because for all you know, he could be like one of the best players in this entire draft at the #1 overall pick. So I don't want to go out and call the Jacksonville Jaguars losers for this pick. It would have been a huge W if they could have traded down to the 5th pick and then selected Travonne Walker, but at the end of the day, he goes #1 overall. Travonne Walker's a huge winner. For all you know, in the middle of the season, the Jacksonville Jaguars will be huge winners too. Next winner, without a doubt, Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, a guy that played for Michigan, ended up getting drafted by his hometown team. Yes, you didn't go #1 overall, but for the Detroit Lions, they're big winners in this instance, because at the very least, they get a guy that will want to play for the Detroit Lions. He went to Michigan. He's going to play for Detroit, Michigan now. I think it's an absolutely beautiful match for both of them. Someone that you could really build your team around. And in this case, you could even make an argument that it's a huge steal for the Detroit Lions. And at the end of the day, Aiden Hutchinson gets to stay close to home. So big steal for both sides. The Detroit Lions were also able to trade up for Jameson Williams, who was a lot of people's top wide receiver prospect in this entire NFL draft. Now, this just proves that Jared Goff has one more season under center and looks like he has significantly more weapons coming back the second year. Now, you might be thinking, what's the significance? Well, in my opinion, I think Goff has one more year under center before the Lions pull the plug on him. I'm seeing multiple teams that are in need of a quarterback this year saying, okay, we might need a QB this year, but the quarterback class is significantly better next year. And it seems like the Detroit Lions are one of them. So drafting Jameson Williams not only gives them an opportunity to further evaluate Jared Goff, while also building around their quarterback of the future, whether that's Goff, which
I don't think it is Goff,
or someone that they're going to select next year, year, but they're also adding pieces in the meantime, like Jamison Williams this year, Penei Sewell last year. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson, who was a lot of people's consensus #1 overall pick up until 3 days ago. All in all, I think the Detroit Lions had a really solid NFL draft. Now, we're going to get to wide receivers a little bit later on in this video because they're yet another big winner. Are you kidding me? Derek Stinkley Jr. went #4 overall? Yo, I made a video on this guy. He's a legitimate stud. He had one of the greatest freshman seasons we've ever seen in collegiate football history. But like, there's a lot of issues about whether or not he could stay healthy. I thought this is who they were gonna go for, like maybe at the back of the 10th round. I mean, back of the the tail end of the top 10 picks. I didn't think he'd be the #3 overall pick. I thought he'd be Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Yo, huge W for Derek Stingley Jr. He could be one of the best players, if not the best player in this entire NFL draft. At the same time, he could be one of the biggest busts in the NFL draft. He is the true definition of boomer bust pick. Maybe this pays off. Maybe down the line it does. But oh my God, I thought this would be Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Derek Stingley Jr., without a doubt, one of the biggest winners. As time progresses forward in this NFL draft, I'm having a lot of difficulty trying to find even one loser, except for me, who got my live stream struck down because, well, I was an idiot. But aside from that, my next winner, and this is coming from a Dallas Cowboys fan, has to be none other than the New York Giants. I mean, you don't know if Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal are going to be bona fide studs, but based off of what their valuation is, there was a point where both of these prospects were considered to be the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Yes, Kayvon Thibodeau wasn't considered to be the consensus #1 overall prospect since, I don't know, November, but Evan Neal at a specific point prior to free agency was considered to be everyone's top offensive tackle prospect. Now, whether you think Ike Ekwonu is better or not is a completely different conversation. The fact of the matter is the fact that the New York Giants got tremendous value with both the 5th overall pick and the 7th overall pick. They got the most athletic edge rusher in the entire NFL draft at pick #5, and then they decided to select whoever was left over between Ike Ekwonu and Evan Neal. And when the Carolina Panthers selected Ike Ekwonu, then Evan Neal fell right to their laps. I mean, this is it for Daniel Jones. He had his 5th-year option terminated earlier on today. He now has a plethora of weapons at his disposal and a brand new left tackle protecting his blind side, a new head coach that is credited for his ability to develop Josh Allen. So if he's not able to show up at this point, then things are going to look really bad for Daniel Jones, and the New York Giants could potentially move on from him and potentially select a quarterback in next year's NFL draft, which is considered to be one of the deepest NFL drafts in quite some time. Now, yet another winner and a team that probably had my favorite draft in the entire NFL draft is none other than the New York Jets. The New York Jets didn't chase the fool's gold in trading the 10th overall pick in the NFL draft for Deebo Samuel, which, no offense to Deebo Samuel, is just when you have the 10th overall pick in a wide receiver heavy NFL draft, you have the ability to draft another speed demon by the name of Garrett Wilson and not have to pay him a significant sum of money, or $25 million a year, which is apparently what Deebo Samuel wants. That's the pick that you should stick with. Now, when you consider the fact that they were able to get their man Ahmad Sauce Gardner at the #4 overall pick, which is a huge addition for the New York Jets defense because it gives Robert Saleh some versatility on the defensive end with his blitz packages, and it might be able to really help the New York Jets establish an identity on defense. And then you get Zach Wilson, a weapon, at the #10th pick, and then you trade all the way back up and select Jermaine Johnson, a player that was not supposed to be available when you traded back up that deep. This is a guy that was mocked as a top 10 or top 15 pick in some instances. Then in my book, you're a huge winner. Those are 3 picks that you could get excited about on their own. Each and every one of those players has the potential to turn into a Pro Bowler, and I truly believe that. So the fact that the New York Jets were able to add all 3 of them in one night, it kind of makes me reminiscent about last year's NFL draft, where the New York Jets were able to select Zach Wilson and then trade up for Elijah Vera Tucker. It just seems like this team is making smart decisions. At least their general manager is making smart decisions. A huge winner in this NFL draft is none other than the New York Jets and Joe Douglas. Now, I also want to say that the Jacksonville Jaguars NFL draft, Jags fans might be a little lukewarm about it. There was a lot of fire bulky tweets going around as the Travonne Walker pick was announced, which again, I can't really comment on that primarily because we don't know. Travonne Walker could easily be the best player in this NFL draft. I'm not going to judge it until he gets onto the field, especially if he was selected with the #1 overall pick. But I will say I loved the fact that they traded back up to the first round to select Devin Lloyd, another stud linebacker out of Georgia. So it seems like they spent their free agency trying to build around Trevor Lawrence, which I'm kind of meh about their free agency. I've said it in the past. I think paying Christian Kirk was a little bit of an overpay. I feel like they should have potentially selected Evan Neal with the #1 pick or Ike Mekwonu and maybe try to fix their defense in the free agency period. But what's done is done. I still think this could potentially work out. There's a decent amount of luck that is involved in building an NFL team. So hopefully after the addition of Doug Peterson and how busy they were in free agency and how aggressive they were in the NFL draft, things could get going for them. I don't know if the Jags are a winner or loser. I would say they had slightly above average NFL draft. Now, I really had to rack my brain for a single loser in this NFL draft so far, and it's been really hard. We're going to start out with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers lost his #1 wide receiver in Davante Adams. It was a foregone conclusion that the Green Bay Packers were going to potentially replace Davante Adams' production, although that's nearly impossible, with Aaron Rodgers' first round wide receiver in his entire career. And once again, despite having 2 first-round picks in the NFL draft, neither of those picks were spent on a wide receiver. You could have potentially drafted for George Pickens, although don't get me wrong, there were some questions in regards to his maturity. Now, don't get it wrong, they could easily draft a wide receiver later on in the NFL draft, but it would have been really exciting to select a wide receiver in the first round. Now, I'm not saying they're major losers for not doing this. I'm not even calling the Packers losers. I'm saying Aaron Rodgers in this case might be a bit of a loser. But at the end of the day, when you're getting paid $50 million a year annually, are you really a loser? And of course, what goes for Aaron Rodgers also goes for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have his signature wide receiver Tyreek Hill anymore, as he was traded to the Miami Dolphins for tremendous compensation in return. It was a foregone conclusion that they would be able to draft a wide receiver as well. Now, I don't hate the Kansas City Chiefs pick of George Karlaftis because he's a really good freaking player that I expected to be picked in the top 15 as well. But I'm just saying in this instance, I could imagine Patrick Mahomes being excited about finding his next wide receiver to replace Tyreek Hill in the first round. But that might have been very difficult because every single wide receiver in this year's NFL draft, including those that were traded, AJ Brown and Hollywood Brown, were huge winners. I don't know if this is as a result of what happened in the offseason when we saw Christian Kirk get overpaid by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then you saw Davante Adams getting paid a huge sum of money and then getting traded to the Las Vegas Raiders before Tyreek Hill said, oh my God, I want to make that amount of money. Trade me next. And then deciding to part ways with the Kansas City Chiefs to get traded to the Miami Dolphins. And then you saw Stephon Diggs getting paid a large sum of money. Deebo Samuel is demanding a huge contract extension or a trade for that matter, and AJ Brown, a player that was really happy in Tennessee, ended up getting traded as well. So at the end of the day, when you look at the wide receivers that were selected in this year's NFL draft, I didn't think Chris Olave was going to get selected with the 11th overall pick. I didn't think Drake London was going to get selected with the 8th overall pick. I didn't think we were going to see 4 wide receivers get drafted within a span of 5 picks, and I sure as hell didn't think Jahan Dotson was going to get drafted at the 16th overall pick. That's why I'm really not holding anything against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, because in many mock drafts, there is the assumption that, oh, Chris Olave could be available in the 20s. Hell, Jahan Dotson should be available in the 2nd round. That's not what ended up happening, and that's why the NFL draft is so freaking exciting. Yes, I know this is primarily a lot of winners and not that many losers, but it was a fantastic NFL draft, especially if you're Jameis Winston or whoever's supposed to be the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. For all you know, it could be Malik Willis, because now whoever's going to be the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, assuming it's Jameis Winston, now has Michael Thomas and Chris Olave as weapons, and also has additional offensive line help in the form of Trevor Penning. Although, yes, you did lose Teron Armstead, at least that position was addressed in a way where the New Orleans Saints could work with the cap that they currently have. Now, a loser, I guess you could say in this instance, would be Malik Willis. Malik Willis was considered to to be a player that was going to get selected in the first round. We're going to keep an eye out on where he's going to get selected in the second round of the NFL draft. So let me know in the comment section down below, should we try to do another live stream tomorrow? If we do, it's only going to be my face because we don't want to get struck down again for me being an idiot. I hope you guys enjoyed the biggest winners and losers of this year's NFL draft. I have a whole dedicated video on the Philadelphia Eagles, Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals, and Baltimore Ravens making their trades tonight. I felt like this video would have gone way too long if I kept it in here. So if you want, you could click the link in the end screen so you can see it next. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.